modes of entry into international business. So, there are n number of ways in order to enter into international business. So, coming to the types of tariffs, there are three kinds of tariffs. One is specific tariff, ad valorem tariff, and compound tariff, quotas. So, quotas is the maximum quantity of the goods that can be imported from a country. Hello everyone, I am Nikhilavati S, Faculty of Commerce, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. I welcome you all for the sessions of the subject International Business, and we are discussing the first chapter, that is Introduction to International Business. So in the previous session, we have discussed what is international business is all about. And in today's session, we will be discussing tariff and non-tariff barriers to international business. So as we have discussed, international business, all kinds of transactions, exchange of goods and services that happen between the countries, or any business operations and transactions that happen beyond the borders of the nation. So now let us study what are tariff and non-tariff barriers to the international business is all about. So here we have two kinds of restrictions basically. One is like when a business enters into international trade, some of the restrictions, rules, regulations or tax is imposed by the government of that particular home country in order to regulate this imports and exports and reduce the imports as well as to protect the domestic market and the domestic producers. These restrictions put by the government of the home country's business fall into two categories. They are tariff and non-tariff barriers. So first let us see what are tariff barriers are all about. So here a tariff is a tax or duty that is imposed by the government on imported or exported goods, and it increases the price of imported products, making them less competitive compared to the domestically produced goods. So in order to make this imported products less competitive, so that is because to encourage the domestic producers and also to protect them from the global competition. And it is tariffs serve two primary purposes, which like revenue generation and protection of domestic industries. So why this tariffs are put means it is for mainly for two reasons. One is for revenue generation, as whatever the tax or duty that is imposed on the imported goods, it will be a revenue for the government. And the next is to protect the domestic industries from the global competition or from the global brands. So coming to the types of tariffs, there are three kinds of tariffs. One is specific tariff, ad valorem tariff and compound tariff. So specific tariff, that means here a duty or a tax is imposed, a specific amount of tax is charged on per unit of the product. It's a fixed fee per unit of the product that is charged. Say for example, government imposes, say for example, it says like ₹1,000 on every imported smartphones, or the government may impose ₹5 on every unit or the apples that are imported. Whereas ad valorem tariff is a specific percentage on the product that is imported. Say for example, if we take the example of automobile sector, so the government may impose 20% ad valorem tax on the imported car. So if that car price is 30 lakhs, then 20% will be like 6 lakhs maybe the tax amount. So in that way, so here specific tariff is a specific fee that is charged on every unit of the product, whereas ad valorem is a percentage that is charged as a fee on the value of that particular product that is imported. Then compound tariff is something where it's a mixture of both specific tariff and ad valorem tariff. So if a car is imported, so on that, they may charge a specific tariff that, maybe 5,000 per every car that is imported. Along with that, they may charge like 15 to 20% on the value of that particular car. So these tariffs protect the local industries or the domestic industries by discouraging imports and encouraging them to produce the localized products. And next we have is non-tariff barriers. So here non-tariff barriers are restrictions other than tariff that governments use to regulate the imports and exports. So it is any kind of restrictions, rules that is put on the products that are imported or exported, but other than the tariffs. Then these barriers are often more complex and can significantly impact international trade. So they include quotas, licenses, standards, subsidies, etc. Moving forward, let us see what are the types of non-tariff barriers. So coming to the types of non-tariff barriers, we have these many kinds, say for example quotas or licensing, standards and regulations. So let us discuss one by one. First we have is quotas. So quotas is the maximum quantity of the goods that can be imported from a country. So there is a restriction on the quantity to be imported by the countries. Say for example, India imposes a quota on the sugar imports in order to encourage and also to protect the domestic producers of sugar in India. Next we have is import licensing. So here the government needs the businesses in India to obtain a license from the government before it is importing certain or some specific goods from other countries. So this brings a control over the quality and quantity of the products that are imported. For example, some countries mandate the import of harmful materials or the chemicalized materials in order to comply with the quality standards. And next we have is standards and regulations. So here standards and regulations here means, so whatever the products that the domestic businessman is going to buy from the abroad or is going to import from the abroad, that must meet the standards and the quality set by the regulations of the businesses. Especially it must comply with the environmental health standards, environmental standards and rules and regulations, that certain products should not harm the consumers or the society or the environment. So next we have is subsidies to domestic producers. So here the government will provide a financial support for the domestic producers in order to encourage them to produce the products and become self-reliant. So not to depend too much on the international brands or to protect themselves from the international businessmen. So this is done, any schemes even in India, for example, Make in India or Startup India, it is all to make India or the Indian businessman to be self-reliant and to, not to rely on the imports more. So then we have is anti-dumping measures. So this is also one of the important non-tariff barriers that can be taken as a measure from the government in order to protect the domestic producers. These measures help in order to reduce like the foreign businessman from selling their goods at a lower cost than their production cost in order to gain an unfair competition in the foreign market. So this is called anti-dumping. So they are not allowed to dump the products that are produced in their country with a less price in any other or the country where the products are imported. For example, India imposed anti-dumping duty to the Chinese steel products in order to protect the Indian steel producers. Next we have is voluntary export restraints. That means it encourages the businessman voluntarily give up the exports, like to decide what is the quantity of the export they have to make. Here, an exporting country limits the quantity of the products that is going to export it to the another country. So here, say for example, Japan restricted the export of car products. So this is voluntarily making an agreement, in order to protect and to meet the domestic demands or the demands of the domestic customers or the local customers. Then we have administrative barriers. That means these include any other like complex customs regulations, procedures, or processing, documentation, and delayed approvals. This all can act as a barriers to the smooth flow of international trade, that is for the exporting and importing activities. Through these tariff and non-tariff barriers, for exporters it may be like very costly for them to export due to the tariffs and non-tariff barriers and so many restrictions for the exporting country. So this encourages them to stay in the domestic market for a longer time, or it discourages them for going for the global market. And for the importers, again, the high tax or the quotas imposed on the imports will discourage them for not to depend on the imported goods much. And for the domestic customers and also for the domestic businessmen, it is like it encourages them to become more and more competitive and produce the goods and rely less on the imports. Now, let us move to the next topic, that is modes of entry into international business. So, there are n number of ways in order to enter into international business. So, in order to internationalize your business, what are the ways available for you? In that, one of the ways in which the businesses can go for internationalizing their business is through exporting. So, here in exporting, we have two kinds of exporting. One is direct and the indirect. So, in direct exporting, the producer or the manufacturer directly sell goods or services to foreign buyers without involving intermediaries. So, exporting is when you sell the goods to some other foreign country. So, in direct exporting means you as a business, you yourself directly take all the responsibility of selling your products to foreign countries without any kind of involvement of the intermediaries. So, the business takes full responsibility for marketing, sales and distribution in the foreign market. So, here the goods are produced in the domestic market, but they are also exported to the foreign market based on the demands and based on your expansion strategy. And here the businesses takes all the responsibility of marketing, selling and distributing their products without any kind of involvement of the intermediaries. So, now let us see what are the advantages and disadvantages of direct exporting. So, here the advantages is that for the direct exporting businesses, they can get higher profit margins as there are no intermediaries involved and they need not share any kind of commission or a profit with the intermediaries, and they can have direct customer relationship as they themselves take the responsibility of marketing, selling and distribution. They'll come in contact with the customers directly and it helps them to develop a good relationship with the foreign customers. Then brand recognition. So, they'll also have a brand recognition as as a business can make or try harder to make their brand more popular and successful than an intermediary. Selling directly enhances the brand popularity in the foreign markets. And coming to the disadvantages, resource intensive is one of the disadvantage of the direct exporting, because when you as a company you go for exporting, taking care of all the exporting expenses and operations, then you need to invest lot of resources. Say for example, you need to arrange for the management, distribution or supply chain, or you need to recruit the people. So all kinds of financial and human resources are involved. So it is resource intensive. And the other one disadvantage is that market knowledge. That means you need to have a lot of market knowledge about the global market or in the foreign country where you are going to sell your products, because without proper market knowledge you cannot enter and get successful in that particular market. But whereas in indirect exporting, you as a domestic company, first you will sell your products to another domestic intermediary who, say for example, they might be a trading company or an export house, and they take the responsibility of selling your products to the abroad. So that is indirect exporting, where you involve intermediaries to take care of the responsibilities of selling your products, distributing or promoting your products in the foreign or global market. Moving on to the next topic. So here next is licensing and franchising. So licensing and franchising is one of the ways in which you can also enter into the international business. So again, it is one of the mode of internationalizing your business. So let us see what is licensing first. Licensing is a contractual arrangement where a company, say a licensor, permits a foreign company called licensee to use its intellectual property. Say for example, it might be patents, trademarks, technology, or they may also make use of your brand name. So for a fee or for royalty. That means here a company gives the license or the permission for the foreign company. So here the company which gives the permission is called as licensor, and the foreign company which takes the permission to produce or use any kind of intellectual property of that particular company is called as licensee. So it is to use the intellectual property like patents, trademarks, technology or brand name. It is for a fee or royalty. That means in return they will be getting a fee. So the licensee has to pay a fee for the licensor. So then the licensor provides access to its assets while the licensee produces and sells the licensor products in the foreign markets. So here the licensee will get access even to the assets of the licensor, and all kinds of their rules and regulations to be followed, and using their brand name they can produce, the licensee can produce the brands or the products that are produced by the licensor and sell in the market. Moving forward, so some of the advantages and disadvantages of licensing includes, so advantages are mainly low investment. That means here the licensee as a businessman, he need not invest more on the inventing the new brand or finding the customers, doing market research and all. Rather than he can just get a license from the licensor and then produce of any popular brands, products and services. So licensing allows entry into the foreign market without any kind of setting up of production facility. So or as a licensor also you can just give the permission to any foreign company to produce your products. So in that way also, without setting up your production unit there, you can make your brand more popular and familiar in that particular country. Then you will have risk mitigation. That means here, as a licensor, you need not take any kind of risk. So because the licensee will take care of all the operational and management activities. Then you can also have a market access in foreign market without having the trouble of or the risk of setting up your production unit there. And coming to the disadvantages, you will have limited control over your products and the kind of promotion or the production that is done on the, especially on the quality of the products that is produced by the licensee. So next is quality risk. So since because of the limited control and you may face the problems of quality risk because the licensee is going to produce the products under your brand name. So that any kind of compromise in the quality will affect the popularity of your brand or reputation of the brand. Next is dependence. That means your performance in the foreign market is dependent on the licensee's efforts to produce and sell your, or performance in selling and distributing your products. For example, Coca-Cola licenses its products brand name to some other countries, especially for the bottling companies, that they can sell their products to. Moving forward, so let us see what is franchising is all about. Franchising is a broader form of licensing where the franchisor, that means the parent company, grants the franchisee the right to operate a business using its brand, name, trademarks, business model and ongoing support. That means it is much more bigger than the licensing. So in licensing, just you provide the permission to use your brands or intellectual property. But whereas in franchising, you also lend to the franchisee, the right to operate your business, the same kind of operations in its brand name, trademark, business model, as well as all kinds of recipe that you use. Say, unlike licensing, franchising typically involves a closer relationship and continuous assistance from the franchisor. So next, coming to the advantages and disadvantages of franchising. So in franchising, some of the advantages that you can have is rapid expansion. So if you are a franchisor and if you are giving franchisee to the foreign clients, then it is easy for you to expand your market in a very rapid way, because here whatever the recipe that is shade or kind of operation, your business model, the quality remains the same. So in that way you can acquire the market, you can have a multiple franchises that can be given to multiple countries. So it is one of the easy ways to expand your market. Through franchising, you will also get a local expertise. That means here franchisee will get your local expertise on the how the customers are or how the marketing situation is there in that particular country. So they employ local marketing strategies in order to sell the products. So next we have is revenue stream. So here franchises can consistently get an income through the fees and the royalties that is charged for the franchisee. So coming to the disadvantages of the franchising, you will have loss of control. That means though you have given like all the kind of operation, business model, intellectual property, brand name, rights, everything, still you will not have a direct control on the performance of that particular franchisee unit. So its performance completely depends on the franchisee's performance. So you can not have a direct control on the franchisee unit. Next is reputation risk. That means any kind of mismanagement or low performance or any kind of compromise that may happen in the quality or problems or frauds. So it will spoil the reputation of your parent company. So it's a loss for the franchisor. Then initial costs. So that means franchising involves like lot of initial investment. So here the franchisees have to bear a significant investment cost that is needed to set up the business. For example, McDonald's uses this franchising in order to expand through the global market. So this was all regarding tariff and non-tariff barriers, and also we have discussed some of the modes to enter into internationalizing business. So this was all regarding tariff and non-tariff barriers and different ways to enter into internationalized business. So in next session, we will be discussing about different other ways how a business can enter into international market. So hope you all have understood. Thank you.